Damn, I don't forgot.
And the week before.
Oh, you mean this is like it's a politician thing?
It's now becoming political.
You know what? Look, let's do this, because I'm always doing that icky picky ponky every Tuesday morning. So note to yourself, next Tuesday, for you up and about at about 4 in the morning when you go and do your jog thing. Imagine send me and then I'll come through.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
All right, cool. Because as we're getting towards the sharp end of the year, I think we got 6-7 weeks. Yeah. I've got with the combinations that I've got, we can do that.
Okay.
We can do that, brother.
Cool.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
How's the young one, boss?
Good. Amazing. He's laughing a lot.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And Mademoiselle?
Madame also happy.
Okay. Very
Everyone
good.
is happy.
Yeah,
and I'm also happy.
Like
you're not asking me about me?
No, because you look happy, bruv.
I look happy.
Yes.
Okay.
And then let's not confuse the listener, because we do talk before you sit down. Now, listen, bro. Speaking of happiness, whoa. Before we speak of happiness, please, Wakili, please share your handles, please.
At Wakili Ngugi on X, TikTok.
Good.
And Eliud Ngugi on LinkedIn.
Very good. Wakili Ngugi on X and TikTok, and Eliud Ngugi on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So listen, man, if you've got a legal question that is that one of aside, you can touch base with Esquire. All right, through those particular handles. Now, speaking of happiness, Baba, obviously, before we get to the question at hand, you know, there are those two stories that we talk about, so that you know, it's been a week, of course, and those legal issues that have come up during the course of the week are matters of interest, as I like to call them. So obviously the obvious one, happiness, it is the Supreme Court at 12, bruv.
Yes.
And that, like I mentioned earlier on, I thought you weren't going to come through because you're involved in that. 12 years. Yeah. Yesterday, the executive were at the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Amongst the things that were said, obviously, Kindiki, is he an SC, by the way?
No.
Okay.
But he's a professor in law.
He's a professor in law.
Yeah.
So from where you sit,
yes,
because you're also you probably will be both of them. Is there, aside from but Gidhu's both, ne? Is he the only one?
No, I have a prof, this senator.
Oh yes, Ogenda, ne?
Not Ogenda. I'm forgetting his name.
Okay.
But Gidhu is a professor and he's also a senior counsel.
Okay.
Then we have Professor, I'm forgetting his name. He lectures at Nyeri University and he's Senator Kisumu.
Oh yes.
What's his name?
It's not shit. By the way, yeah. Google.
Ogenda.
Yes, but I said Ogenda was.
Okay.
Yeah, you see hearing and not listening. You see how this relationship is going.
Professor Ogenda.
Yeah.
He's a senior counsel and he's also a professor.
Now, ex-presidents, they call presidents of the Law Society.
Yes.
All of them, every single one of them is SC.
Not automatic.
Oh, it's not automatic. That's what I think that should have been a question.
Because we have former president Harvey, Nelson Harvey. He's not a senior counsel, but we have the rest immediate after.
This guy who's
actually the current
the one just before Faith.
Just before Faith, Eric Veuri is not a senior counsel, and so. Yeah, it's not automatic for you.
So does it depend when the list is updated? Because no, sorry, you guys as a legal fraternity, who decides?
Who decides? There's a committee of a senior counsel bar that sits down.
This is the one that's led currently by Fred Ojambo, is it?
By senior counsel.
Senior counsel Fred Ojambo.
Yes. And they sit there and they review some of the applications. So they invite you, if you're over 15 years in practice of the law, and you deem yourself to have done exemptional work in the legal practice, either in public interest arena, or in teaching professional, or in the practice of the law, then you can forward your name and details. And then this committee looks at this information and considers you, forwards the name to the president.
Then what I would say then, brother, that not all wow, and I hope I'm not entering a hornet's nest. Not all former presidents of the LSK should be senior counsels, but all professors should.
I disagree with you.
Please. Because I'm just trying to argue with you, by the way.
Because we are going to look at your scholarly work.
Bas.
So if you look at some of scholarly work of some of these professors, not all professors are that, you know?
Yes.
But there are professors who have done amazing things when it comes to...
jurisprudence.
Not even jurisprudence, in teaching.
Bas, yes.
I have one in mind who has a double doctorate.
Bas.
Her name is Professor Kamiri Mbote.
Bas.
And
indeed, yes.
And she's the only woman,
right,
prof from the University of Nairobi to have that double doctorate. And you see, she's also a senior counsel because of her remarkable work.
Yes.
In doing that, in teaching.
Right.
And so not everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of former presidents?
Former presidents, Nelson Harvey had been recommended and he declined. He's the first president who said, no, I don't want to be appointed senior counsel just because. And so he has created a precedent that just because you are a former president of a Law Society of Kenya, it should not be automatic for you.
Yes.
And so we're waiting to see once they make the request again for people to make applications whether his notable work could be part of this. Or rather, he will consider taking up that
title.
That title.
And for the layman, which is us. So, advocate, does that mean as an SC, your fee note goes up?
No, it doesn't. What happens is you're a distinguished member of a legal profession.
For sure, yes.
And having been distinguished, what happens to you is that you're just given priority,
right,
to address court. Number two, if you are in court, and there's an issue that needs to be clarified,
right,
the judge is likely to request you to chip in,
right,
give some wisdom, because you are very distinguished. Right. So your word can help settle issues in court,
right, or
even assist the court to clear some issues.
Right.
So that's the only difference, or rather a major privilege that they have.
I see.
And they should also be esteemed as such because honestly, they have put in the work.
I like that because then don't mean to circle the drain, but last week there was I think last week or just towards the tail end of the previous week, we're talking about this the impeachment process. And sit down, I am a senior counsel, whatever. So is Dr. John Hamino a senior counsel? Because I saw that people are debating that online.
No, he is not.
And why, brother?
It's not the
So there's actually politics in this, is it?
It's not politics. You see, I also wonder, why is he not a senior counsel, having practiced?
Yeah, going to 60 years. He said, 50 years?
Yeah, for almost 60 years of being a member of a bar, practicing law and even having a PhD in law. Yes. I also wonder why he's not been given that title. But I believe he should be considered.
Amma would, it's also, you've got to set a good example, is it? Okay, don't answer that one. So now there was that one. Thanks for clarifying that one. Now, in terms also now again on clarification, it also involved us here. And then, I took up also, Kenyans, we are, because these days you can Google. Google is your friend. But why Google when, your eloquence is here in studio?
You even go to that.
Yes.
You've asked me about the Supreme.
Yes. No. I've not heard you. We mentioned it. That we talked about last.
Okay.
So, a lot of companies have got in-house lawyers. But then they also have company secretaries. What is the difference?
Well,
let's start at the beginning. What is a company secretary, my friend?
A company secretary is a person trained to
This person is a lawyer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, lawyers. Number two.
And they can go to court?
They also have an extra qualification. They are, there's a course. The CPS course, they have that.
They are lawyers who know how to also count.
No, it's not accounting.
Audit.
It's just to look at documentation in a company.
But
So they look through documentation. They ensure that you are compliant with the law.
yes,
When as a company that you're filing your returns, but
Yes.
you are also when it comes to maybe changes in the shareholding,
Yes.
we look into obvious details.
yes,
And so we understand, we have an extra qualification, and they understand and they assist the company
Yeah.
to make to ensure their paperwork is in order.
yeah.
With the register of companies.
What field would that be, boss?
Ensuring the paperwork is in order.
No. Okay, so like example, at Ngugi Boro, you've got somebody who can who can do these things.
These things, I am here.
Oh, Allah! Okay.
But generally,
Yeah.
companies of certain turnover,
Yeah.
big companies
Yes.
that are having turnovers of hundreds of millions,
Yes.
are recommended to have
A company
secretaries
Right.
to assist them when it comes to the documentation of their company records.
Sharp.
And so, under the Companies Act,
Right.
interesting you've asked me this, and I was reading something last night about
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Under the Companies Act, there's a requirement that you have to comply with certain things.
Yes.
So, for example, you're supposed to hold an annual
GM.
AGM,
Yes.
annual general meeting.
Yes.
And in this annual general meeting, you're supposed to have certain communication made to the shareholders of the company.
Sharp.
And if it's time to resign as a director, there's a process by which you are the directors of that company should resign.
Right.
And there's a communication to be made, and you need to announce how your business is doing.
Sharp.
And so a company secretary will, most of the time, ensure that this process is properly done. And there's a requirement for you to file your annual returns and your minutes from this annual general meeting, or when you have a special general meeting for a certain purpose or to pass a certain resolution. There's a requirement, for example, to file your minutes within 21 days. So this company secretary ensures that you're within the timeline.
Okay.
Otherwise, you fail to do these things,
Right.
and you are likely to get a penalty, or
Right,
you are likely
right.
to get into trouble because you are non-compliant
Right.
under the Companies Act. Yeah.
You see now, and he breaks it down and dissects it so lucidly. Now we understand. Thanks for that one. Now, finally, obviously the big one, and you sent me that invite, but you've managed to make it through. We've seen advertising, and I wouldn't call it advertising, man. Civic education, and I'd actually put it as brand awareness over the course of the weekend. You know, they've basically expanded on their mandate, what they've done over the past 12 years, what they're doing, what is the vision going forward. We're talking about 12 years of the Supreme Court. And obviously there is, what's happening this week? It's just the Supremes at 12. Everyone knows about it. Yeah.
It's more of an anniversary happening at the Supreme Court of Kenya, looking backwards and forward. Some of the achievements by the Supreme Court for the last 12 years, and looking forward on some of the things that, and they're even inviting the public to come and criticize and say, hey, how would you like us to improve as a Supreme Court? So they're also looking forward to see how well they can improve and ensure that they better themselves. And so there's an exhibition, and there's more like a conference. We are discussing some of the notable criminal cases that have been had in the Supreme Court. They are discussing some of the major cases which have been decisions which have been granted by the judges, and just reflecting, time to just reflect. It's running from yesterday until tomorrow. That's what is happening at the Supreme Court.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, 6th, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say exhibition, sorry to cut you off, brother, it's just for you guys, members of the Bahama, even Tom, Dick, and Sally can enter.
Well, so today I was sent an invite.
Yes.
I was told there was an extra slot somewhere.
Yes.
And so when I was filling up my application to attend the conference tomorrow, it had categories of the people who are going in. So first of all, you have to give your ID, your occupation, then the organization you are coming in from, and the registration category. So the category given here is you can either be a panelist, a delegate, exhibitor, media, security, protocol staff, secretariat, rapporteur, session chair, muta, coach, service provider.
Yes.
So those are
I like that rapporteur bit. Yes, you know.
Invited there.
Yes.
And even last week, I think on Friday and Thursday, there was a huge moot court.
Yes.
Involving university students.
Yes. I saw that.
And the judges were listening to them.
Yes.
So that's what is currently happening. So if you fall under any of these categories,
right,
then you're very much then you are very much invited to attend.
Okay.
Yeah.
To the layman, and you know you're very good at explaining and dissecting as to the layman. First of all, I'm just thinking about it now. In retrospect, a lot of the Supremes got in there when they were rather young, because retirement age is
74.
It's 74. That after the Rawal case, we clarified that, did we? Kalpana, was it? She was DCJ, ne?
She was DCJ and she challenged her retirement.
Was it 70? She was challenging 70 or 74?
She had already
hit 70.
Hit 70.
Yes.
And so I can't. It's been a minute since I last read that decision.
One. Right.
So it's 70. 70 is safer.
But aside from the original Supremes, how many of them are still there? There's Njoki, Justice Dungo.
Yeah, there's Justice. Smoking retired. He's no longer there.
Wanjala's dead, boss. Huh? And Ibrahim, let me just look at the Supremes.
Ibrahim.
There's Ibrahim, there's Oko, there's Leniola.
Yeah. And Muilu, Justice Muilu, and the CJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have removed one.
There's one who retired.
Is it JB?
JB Ojwang, yes. I'm confusing him with the other one.
With Wanjala?
Wanjala, yes.
All people from Western look the same. So anyway,
but you're also forgetting that the chief justices have also left.
Yes, have left. So generally it's the CJs that have been rotating in and out.
Yes.
Ne? But now to a Kenyan listening is like, aside from election petitions.
Which election petitions?
Presidential.
Yeah, you need to clarify.
Yes, presidential election petitions. Are we saying that the majority of the time, what do they do, brother? Without us having to go for this summit, team building, whatever's going on at the Supreme Court. What do the Supremes do? 9 to 5, Monday to Sunday.
The Supreme Court, just like any other court in Kenya, is very busy. And you know why? Because they also have the appellant jurisdiction, or what we call, they can hear appeals from the Court of Appeal, which affect on constitutional issues.
Or on constitutional issues?
Yes. If you're able to show that the appeal has a constitutional issue around it, they are going to entertain it. If you don't, they dismiss your appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay, so
let's be clear. I have a land case, because that's what most Kenyans have, those that are civil matters. And then I lose at the Court of Appeal. Can I come to a brilliant lawyer like yourself and say, boss, make sure this goes to a constitutional court? Sorry, to the Supremes.
This appeal has to be either one of public and general importance, or revolving around interpretation or application of a constitution. So if you have a land issue and you want to appeal that decision, it has to deal with, this land has to be a public, to be related to public interest. Either it's property that belongs to a school or institution, or it has to be one that raises a constitutional issue. Okay, so
Esquire, what you're saying, for example, we saw the other day how an individual who was got a loan from a bank of 1.9 billion. You saw that, and used Jivanji Gardens, the title deed. That can go to the Supremes.
It can go because it touches on a public
pass,
property.
Sharp.
But also beyond all this, are we likely to set a precedent constitutionally on a certain provision of a law, either to do with how we go about an appeal? And so if you're able to show that when you are appealing, that this case, even though it's let's say it's a family issue, and currently we have a conversation going around registration of customary marriages, because that's what is required by the Act. And you're here saying you have been denied an order, or you've been denied maybe a visa because you failed to declare your marital status, and he requested for a marriage certificate.
Sharp.
And you went back and you said, I'm customarily married.
Yes.
I don't have a marriage certificate.
Yes.
I can provide you with an affidavit.
Sharp.
And they tell you, no, we cannot take affidavits because the law requires you to have a marriage certificate. So you go to the courts, requesting the magistrate, please declare me married, so that I can now proceed and follow up on this other document. And the courts will tell you, no, we cannot declare you married. You're supposed to go in this other direction.
Sharp.
So in such a case, you can appeal that decision, go to the High Court, go to the Court of Appeal. Eventually, there's a constitutional issue. There's an issue to do with your right to family. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
like
discrimination
yes,
under the
yes,
Constitution.
yes.
So now you raise a petition and you take it to the Supreme Court.
Okay, now, speaking of which, and we did not discuss this, but then we see it's just come up in our preamble, brother. I don't know when this ruling was made. I think it was late last week, because yesterday is Monday. A judge ruled, and you have discussed it here. You know where I'm going. That it is now okay to marry my cousin. Can this get to the, because that was High Court level, was it? Can this get to the Supremes?
It can get to the Supreme Court because it could raise a legal issue, a constitutional issue.
Yes.
And we can take it there.
Now, like I said, we don't like to read. Maybe unfair. Do you know the facts of this matter? What happened there? Why? So let's be clear. When we say cousin, let's get legal here, because we don't drama. Because you have elucidated this story many times here. Now, a cousin would be my mother's sister's child. Is that what we're talking?
A cousin will be
my auntie's child.
Yes.
First cousin.
Well, some people will interpret it differently. But it could be your
That's
first
why you're
cousin.
here.
Yeah.
Ebu interpret it otherwise. What does no? So
Who's the cousin?
Yes. What has this judgment? I was about to say this person, but what has the judge allowed us to do? Pray tell, brother.
No, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to go through that judgment.
Yes.
I just read it from the media.
Yes.
But when we had this conversation earlier,
yes,
I was referring to the Sexual Offences Act.
Yes, thank you.
That only says that if you commit a sexual offense, what would be deemed as, for example, incest, would be if you were to have a sexual relation with either your mother, your sister, your stepsister, or your stepmother as a man. But there's no provision that if you are to have sexual relations with your cousin, then you have committed the crime of incest under the Sexual Offences Act.
Then you guys have left the window because so no.
So MP.
No. I listen, not to disparage. I don't assume that my MP necessarily has a brain, brother. Okay. Hence I say you guys. Surely when it comes to certain, because there's some sort of DNA that we still share with my cousin, do we not?
Now, according to the law, they consider, and I've seen some other arguments, that there are communities in this country that allow people to marry
to
their
death.
cousins.
Yes, and we're not going to. Yeah, and
they allow them.
Yes, and then that's why you see that, and that's why you'll see, and it was said somewhere that those communities that let that happen, you'll see that they'll be down the food chain. There'll be once in a while you'll find a child that is not 100. Okay, and we're not going to mention those communities, but you know yourselves. All right. So that is because science is telling you, hey, my friend, here is a no. All right. Yeah, you are not doing the right thing. And we are in possession of these facts. We am talking about the legal fraternity. Why are we allowing this to happen? Because, thank you, I call it, the word I was looking for is inbreeding. What are we doing, Eliud?
No, we are institutions and bodies. There are institutions and bodies out here who that are fighting day and night to make sure that there is order in the society. We look through some of these issues and we prepare documentation. We sponsor bills. We speak to our MPs to see that some things are corrected. So. I am certain now that this issue has, again, this is not the first time it came up in the media or in the courts. Now that it has been highlighted, these institutions are doing something about. They are going to do something about it, and very soon, probably there will be amendments in that regard.
I like that.
Yeah.
So then, just to circle back, 12 years down the line, the big thing yesterday is that, the power play that was at play, okay, because there was the executive at the judiciary, then the judiciary, obviously, courtesy of the head, then that how the DP was being a professor of law, very eloquent. Sometimes I wonder how Ngugi would have done that speech. But then, I'm sorry. The fast. Too soon. But, too soon. Yeah. And then, said, and I saw Advocate Harvey was that surely the Supreme Court said they needed a new building, a building that has been there since time immemorial. I think it came with the colonialists. 12 years down, are we better off with the Supreme Court than we were 13 years ago? And I'm talking about not you as a legal fraternity. CC, wananchi, yes.
Wananchi.
Yes.
Wananchi. As wananchis, I would say, because I'm also a wananchi.
Yes,
as a wananchi, I would say we are better off.
Yes.
One, because now we have a place to run to when we are not happy with the decisions at the Court of Appeal.
Right.
Initially, we only had up to the Court of Appeal, and you had no other place to go and seek for justice. And we have just said that we have appellant jurisdiction when it comes to public interest issues and when it comes to issues around the Constitution. Yes. Secondly, when it comes to elections, presidential elections, you see, the Supreme Court have the first, that's why we're here.
Yes, they're the first line of defense.
Not first line of defense.
They are first dips.
We hear the presidential petitions at first instance.
Yes.
So we are in this, remember 2022 or 2017.
Yes.
And there's one candidate who is unhappy with the other.
Right.
Or is not happy with the results.
Yes.
So the Supreme Court will tell you, okay, come and bring your case.
Yes.
We shall review.
Yes.
And we have a very restricted timeline to hear your case, after which then we can declare the winner of this election petition. Initially, you go to the Court of Appeal. It didn't have a dictated timeline. So people could drag each other. The country could go, could burn, for lack of a better word, because we didn't have such a structure. Thirdly, we have... The Supreme Court has this authority to review or to give advice on issues to do with the county governments. So we call it advisory jurisdiction. So it can advise the county governments at the request of the national government and any other agencies. So if it's an issue to do with a legal issue to do with a county, the judges will come and give an opinion on how to go about that issue.
Direction.
Give a direction.
Then it's interesting you say that, Wakili, because you say these guys, they don't drag things out. But interestingly, when you talk about counties, Meru, Mwangaza, she's called, and her issue, it was the same. In fact, it was, yes. Why is it slower than Rigiji's, by the way? Because it's the same story, by the way. And there, I don't know which, did they go to the Court of Appeal? Did she go to the Court of Appeal or to the Supremes? You
go first to the High Court.
High Court.
Yes.
So where is she? Because she's in limbo as well, ne?
Yes. But you see, these are political issues. How we decide political issues sometimes with not how we decide other issues.
I like the way you answer. Yes, I like the way you speak.
Yes. You will not compare the county issue with this national issue.
Yes.
But you go first to the High Court, then you appeal, and probably you enjoy court orders.
Yes.
Yeah, you can serve under court orders.
Right.
You can be protected by these courts as well. Yeah.
Right.
But what I think you have alluded to the issue about yesterday.
Yes.
I think if I could comment on one thing, I would say the reason we have three arms of government is to ensure there are checks and balances.
Right.
And these checks and balances allow accountability. And that's why you see that when Meru governor is unhappy, she will run to this other institution to ensure that it checks to see whether
I like that.
The executive erred.
Yeah, so they went from high executive, then she ran to, or rather they ran to the legislature.
Yeah.
And then obviously there they erred, then now she's gone to the judiciary. I get it. Now those are the three arms.
Yes.
A few of us, or rather a few of you, I'm talking about members of the society, upset that she was, not she, well, the Supremes, are basically consorting with the executive. What is the crime? And come, let us celebrate our achievement. Let's break bread and have a meal and see what we have done.
Well,
see, you've said it's an exhibition, brother.
It's an exhibition, but also at the same time, you have a duty to check and balance each other. If, for example, you are accountable to me, it will not be okay to the rest of the people out here, seeing that we are already spending time together, yet I'm supposed to be checking you. That's
so now what you guys talk about is the image, the look and feel.
So there's the image part of just being seen together.
Sharp.
But you see, at the same time, we forget that there's a government. And what is a government? The three arms together.
You. Yes.
But was this a national event? Was it a government event?
I don't know if that's a true question. What do you know?
In terms of, was it a free arm event? It was
no, it wasn't. No,
having an event.
Okay.
And so there's that discomfort, and that's what happens as we study law.
Yes.
There's a perception that we are supposed to avoid, and I believe this is what the judges and the magistrates are taught when they go for their training. Once you are appointed as a magistrate or as a judge, you go for a training, and your life has to be different. You cannot, as a lawyer, and you are my client, I think you will not be comfortable, or you are in the opponent side, you will not be comfortable if you are to see me having coffee with a judge. Of
course, yes.
Because of that whole perception. Yes. How, again, and that's the issue again of conflict, how again am I going to issue court orders to this lawyer who I spend time with, which are not favorable to them?
Yes.
And so, suppose, from that image, suppose the current case in court on impeachment was to move all the way to the Supreme Court, because this is in the public domain. It was to move to the Supreme Court.
I see, but you are hanging out with the...
And
Okay.
Do we expect the same results?
I get you. Now, okay, makes sense now. Okay. Good one. And then finally, I mentioned this yesterday, and Kenyans we have got an open border policy. All right. And I think that came up in the fourth regime. When I say open border, I mean UK in his wisdom, he says Africans coming into Kenya require no visa. Okay. And then others coming from wherever, you can get your visa upon arrival at port of entry. Now that says, that means we've got all sorts on our streets. Now we've got scenarios, where, and I said this because there were Ugandans working in Kenya, and then something happened in Isli. I think you know that story. And then also, as far as the Isli 3 are concerned, it's a foreigner from the northern part, I don't know if it's Somalia, Ethiopia, who got himself Kenya documentation. Now, I was then also having a conversation about, there's a lot of, this is NGO Central. And former CS Matiangi, in fact, there's a point he put a caveat on the number of NGOs that are operating in this country. I think they also did an audit, a good one. If you go to our neighbors, registering a company in Tanzania or Uganda, they will require you to have natives, let's call them that, as partners. I was very disturbed when I saw Kume here. There were Zungus, many, who have got companies, but I'm like, Allah, there's no local shareholding here. It's like, no, bro. In Kenya, legally, are you required as a foreigner to have local partnership to do business in this country?
Initially.
Oh, here we go.
Initially, you would require to have a local shareholder.
Yes.
And then come Companies Act 2015.
Yes.
It removed that whole requirement to have a local shareholder.
2015. That requirement was removed 9 years ago.
Yes.
Now,
so as a foreigner, you just come in and, we need to also look at easing business in the country. Inviting and looking attractive to the international body.
Right.
And to the international members.
Yes.
And community.
Yes.
So removing that requirement allowed them to come in. But there's a catch here. When they come to do business in this country and register, let's say, companies, they are required to have a PIN number. So we have to pay taxes to our revenue authorities.
Right.
And number 3, when it comes to permits, how are you doing business in this country if there are several categories that you can be in the country as a foreigner?
Yes.
One of them is an investor.
Right.
So for you to apply through that class under immigration as a investor in this country, there's a requirement for you to have to prove your amount of investment.
Exactly. Yes, it's heavy.
It's very heavy.
Yes.
And so we're still in control of some of these things.
So can a foreigner get a PIN number?
Yes, we can. You can.
So why was that a big thing for you just now when you mentioned it as number 2?
Because they're going to assist us develop this country. Because they're going to help come make money, but they're going to also be required to pay our VAT and our pay and
okay. So
taxes.
Now those are now investors.
Yes.
Let's talk about now people who are working. So do you require work permit? And please, it's not a daft question, Baba. Do you require work permit as a foreigner to work in this country?
Yes, you do.
So the people, because we're going now to the other end of the spectrum, and I'm not talking about the people who are selling jugunuts. If immigration walk into now any random hair salon somewhere, and arrest those Rwandese, Zaire, and Zambian nannies, are they working illegally?
Oh, we should be able to answer that question. I don't know.
Because these are the loopholes we're talking about.
How did they get into this country? Unless we use the back door. And you see the arm of the government is long.
Yes.
what do they say?
Exactly. No, it's a long arm of the law.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, one way or another,
Yes.
they will be caught. Because they'll just be walking on the streets. They'll be stopped. You have to show your ID, or you need to. I don't understand how then they'll be able to survive in this country, because any building you enter or any service you require will require you to have some identification.
Jeff, I don't think so. Clearly, Wakili, aside from courts and everyone comes to him, because surely, and even let me ask you, Esquire. Those are where they ask you to do for ID. Do they ask for the physical thing? Me, by the way, my ID number, they ask me what's ID number. It's Eliud James Bond, 00781673665. Homeboy just writes it down. Phone number 0722811811.
You don't give 0722000000.
I mean, I've had a guy, what's your name? And then I said Luther Van Ross, and he wrote it down.
Well,
he just wrote it down. Huh? So you see, my thing is, and this is where, as the Law Society, honestly, because we cannot, no, Baba, we cannot, because Parliament is a joke, and some of these things, I mean, you cannot be a domestic staff in Dar es Salaam and your Kenyan try. You won't last long. Okay, you cannot be employed to be a barber. Yeah, now when mtu kutoka hapa Kenya, elsewhere. But here it's very easy that people from without are now gaining employment here, and you see, and I was talking about this yesterday. So we need you people as guys of the last resort to sort these things out. By the way, it's okay to be a foreign investor if you're coming to set up a bank. Swafi. Good to go. But otherwise, if it's that one that I'm coming to register a business, and I've got to go through Ngugi Mburu advocates, that is somebody solid. Yes, you're bringing color. But when we have people, and these are things that you guys should be talking about, who are going to become a mboch, uko nje, why don't you just become a media? Because there's no space. Listen, when we get back, it's now. Esquire has told me, but Mr. Kwach, it's asked and answered. We have discussed this before. Well, this one, it is due to public demand. And a friend actually called me up last week, bruv, after the Tuesday when you were here. So this is basically Wednesday night, and said you've got to discuss this with Esquire. So, Tony, I'm going to bring it up with him next.
Who is the greatest 10 of them all?
Messi.
Pele. Maradona.
Well, mine is Tala.
Tala?
For 10 years, Tala has been financially empowering Kenyans to chase their dreams. My friends, Tala bado wako.
Asanteni wa Kenya, tunawaaminia.
Here's to another 10 years and many more.
Cheers.
Tala is licensed by the Central Bank of Kenya. Download the app today.
Spicing up your drive.
Wow, that hour's flown by, and you know what? So he's got basically 4 minutes to sort this one out. So my boy basically asked, listen, Wakili, my friends and I were having a conversation the other day, and we needed clarification on this. You have spoken about matrimonial property and prenuptial agreements. The question is, can you either force a prenup or insure yourself against loss if your partner refuses to sign? Now, for the uninitiated, Baba, advocate, what is matrimonial property in a nutshell? You've got 3 minutes.
Matrimonial property is property obtained at the beginning, during, and at the end of a marriage.
Very good.
Yes.
There's a law to the same. There's a law, yeah?
There's a law under it. This is the Matrimonial Property Act of 2013. And it also defines what is matrimonial.
I like that.
Yeah, and this could be household goods, could be the house you're living in, or it could be also basically assets purchased in the course of your marriage.
But
that's what is matrimonial property.
What is a prenuptial agreement?
A prenuptial agreement is more like a pre and nuptial. Is an agreement you sign before you get married to outline how to share your property obtained during the course of a marriage. In case that marriage does not survive, it actually an agreement on how you are going to share this property.
Okay.
So the advantage we say is that you're not able to expose yourself maybe to the court system because you already had a document, so you don't have to go fighting when you're going through the divorce process and the matrimonial process. The divorce process and sharing this property. You don't have to expose yourself. You just use this document, and you'll be able to know what belongs to who.
Okay.
At that point.
Now, in light of that, because let's separate the wheat from the chaff. You're a pretty sharp pencil, even amongst your peers. Now, that said, here it's very simple. A lot of people will there's no gray here. It's either yes, honey, okay, and it's not a battle of the sexes. Yes, honey, let's do a prenup. Absolutely good to go. But why? So because this is we're about to enter into the honeymoon phase of things, then that will be set aside. But there's also people get insurance for job losses, for job loss, ne? Okay, you get that from an insurance company. Now here, like I said, not watering it down. Obviously, you cannot. When he said insure yourself, it means that I come to my lawyer Eliud Ngugi and say, Baba, my lovely future wife to be is not going to sign this thing. Can you but make sure that then I am not going to be in a position where I will lose if things go south, even if she doesn't put pen to that paper?
Unfortunately, no.
Wow.
I mean, the only way you are able to protect yourself from this is
myself.
We sign a prenup. Otherwise, your contribution comes into play, your direct contribution to the purchase and ownership of this property, or even your indirect, your contribution, which may be indirect. What other things were you doing when this other person was investing in these things?
Yes.
So were you taking care of the kids? Were you taking care of the businesses that you're running? Or were you also ensuring that there was companionship in a warm bed at night?
Yes.
So that's what will come into play. But if you don't have a prenup agreement, then I expect to go to court and fight it out there, because they will also come and claim what is theirs.
So here there's no gray areas, Baba.
There's no gray area. It's black and white.
Advocate Eliud Ngugi, thank you so very much for coming through. See you next week, brother.